Hello, and welcome to another edition of TJ Plays with Some AI. In this edition, I want to talk about documentation. We get asked fairly often how we manage documentation and how we generate documentation, how we service that documentation. So I figured I would walk you through a demo of how we use that with the combination of two tools. One is the Figma Console MCP with this specific tool called Figma Generate Component Docs. And then we use this other tool that we have called Company Docs. It's our custom Company Docs MCP. We call it Company Docs because it's really any way to store documentation and publish it to an MCP server to allow for retrieval via any MCP client. So I'll take you through that whole step and then just walk you through this process. So this is our fictitious college town design system that I do a lot of these demos on. I've got this button group selected here. One of the key important parts that I want to make sure that I make clear is that this isn't just generated documentation. This documentation is, there's definitely human involvement in this. The purpose and intent part is usually put here in this description section for the component sets, not to mention all the governance and guidelines and things that are very company and organization specific. Those are all things that are either human written or AI assisted. So similar thing here. This is a button group. This is documentation or description, component description that we've written here. And it describes when to use it, how to use it, what to do, what not to do with it. So this is kind of the gold standard of how the documentation content begins. And then the rest of the documentation is written through a series of functions that are set within this Generate Components Doc tool. Now, it's important to note that this Generate Documents tool doesn't just serve a canonical source for Figma. What it does is, since Figma Console MCP is bidirectional, what it does is it searches for the component set that lives within Figma, and then it also searches for the component as it exists in code. And then it runs a code and design parity tool on it, and then it writes the documentation based upon the analysis of both the design and the code side of things. So without further ado, I will take you into how we set this up. So here's a fresh Claude instance. So I always like to start this off with a get status. So I'll say, can you please give me a status check on where I'm at in Figma? Or sometimes I'll say, give me a Figma get status or something. And then just to show you where, so it's got the college design system selected. It knows that it looks like it's already detected that I'm on the button group component. This is where the component documentation will end up in this docs/components directory. So now I'll say, so it already knows that I have the button group component selected. I'll say, generate full documentation for the selected component using the Figma Console MCP and save it to the docs/components directory. So I'm giving it pretty explicit directions here, but if I was running this several times over several components, I can just say generate the docs, and then it'll know what tool to call, what components to look up, both on the code side and the Figma side, and where to put it. So since this is the first time, I want it to be a little bit more explicit in how it does this. So it's running this Figma get selection. It's grabbing the component. It found the ID. So this is great. So it's calling out that there actually isn't a developed version of this. So it's saying it's a Figma only component. So it's going to grab the document description and write the documentation based solely on what it has gathered from the Figma side of things. If it were to find a complementary developed component, then it would compare those two. It actually adds like the discrepancies that it finds if it does find drift between the design and the code. So this is extracting. Let's see, this is a rather large component set. Let me see what's going here. So there's a couple of variants in here, some properties. It's running through all the different variants. Okay, so it's got all the design data that it needs to. So in this generate docs tool, before it runs this, it has to run a series of other tools to make sure that it's grabbing all of the proper context, so that way it could form it into the correct documentation. We do have like a boilerplate documentation example template that it pulls from. And then, so this is the execute command where it's running the all of the information that it has just gathered from the only source right now, which is the Figma source. And then let's see, the doc has been generated, so it's looking to clean it up. So it generates it in memory, and then once it's done, it will output it to this directory. So you can see it's not in here right now. It should land somewhere in this area once it's done with the generation. Let's see, the doc has been generated. Let me clean it up a bit. The raw output has some structural issues where Figma description content bled into the wrong sections. I'll refine it and save it. So it caught some discrepancies with the way the content was organized, and now it's going to refine it and then save it. So that's pretty nice of you, Claude. And then the next step, once this process is complete, then I'm going to jump over to the company docs side of things and then show you how that works. While this is saving here, I'll show you. All right, so just confirming here. Yes, there it is, button group. So it saved it. Here it is. Here's the metadata for the button group, and then it goes through, when to use it, when not to use it, the different variants. So this is the markdown version of it. What you'll end up seeing is the published version of it. So now I'll say, yeah, so it knows what I want to do. Now ingest and publish this to the company docs database. Boom, let's do that. While it's doing that, I'm going to show you a little bit about company docs. So company docs is a fairly easy to understand tool. It's any markdown or documentation that you write for whatever. This could be for your design system, or it could be for like HR or operations or finance or whatever department that you want to write documentation for and then expose via an MCP. So you write it, you publish it, it queries a vector database. I have this hooked to Supabase. It's a PG vector database that allows you to retrieve all the data that we're publishing to it via AI. And then we have our company docs MCP server hosted through Cloudflare Workers. It's a free service. I highly recommend it. But it's all documented here in the README. This is an open source public repository. I'll put the link in the comments, or I'll put the link in the post here, so that way you can dig into it too. We also have an article written about it that goes into detail about it. All right, great. So it looks like it did a thing while I was talking. So this is where we left off before, where it generated that button group, and then let's see, ingested 12 files. So it looks like it pulled in. Let's see, Wrangler wasn't being picked up. Let's see, Wrangler. So now Wrangler is the Cloudflare CLI. Let's see, results. Okay, so it ended up connecting, and then it published successfully. Button group, 9 chunks, date picker, great. So now this published that button group component documentation to the MCP server. So now I'm going to go in. Let's start with Claude. So I'll show you that I have a connector here that is connected to our company docs. This is the configuration for it. I'll always allow all these tools. This is the connection. So if I go back here and say, can you use the company docs connector to tell me about the button group component? And then so the company docs connector can connect to any MCP client. So now it's going to call that company docs connector. And since it was just published, here is the live data that was just generated through the Figma Console MCP, and now is giving it to me through AI, through this MCP client via Claude Code. So now I have the ability to ask it anything specifically. So if I wanted to, I can say, give me the variants of this button group, or give me the token architecture or the tokens that are currently being used in whatever component. And then another cool piece is I can do this through Slack, because I have a Slack bot hooked up where I can say docs, and then I could say, tell me all about the button group. It put an explanation on there. I'm not really that excited about it, but it is pretty cool. So here is the button group documentation. So it's grabbing this real time from the published documentation that was just created, and now you can ask it any question, same as you would within Claude Code. Claude Chat right here. You can ask it anything that you want about the button group. It even gives you some sources to some different components within the Figma library that this was sourced from. So anyway, I hope this helps understand how we connect these pieces together from the Figma side of things, how we use the Generate Docs tool within Figma Console MCP to generate docs from both the code side and the design side. The tool will detect which one exists and then choose the one that is completed. If both exist, then it will combine them together to create those docs. And then we use the company docs node package npx commands to ingest and publish these to these what we're calling company docs. You can call it whatever organization name that you want to call it, and then make it accessible via this MCP connection. So this could be pulled down through Claude Chat, through your Slack bot, through any other connectable MCP connector available of your choice. So anyway, hope this is helpful. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you all next time.